But as a person, he's a horrible person. He's a liar. He's arrogant. He's aloof. For lack of a better word, he's a prick. And I am so over him.
Aaron Rodgers doesn't look good at all. And the reason why he doesn't look good is because my man, who's that bad man, looks weak.
Aaron Rodgers has been a very selfish guy. Like, period. Like in this, I get it. He's at the end of his career, and so it's like, okay, I'm gonna take whatever I can take. But you can't do that and want to win. Like, how are you gonna try to win? And I get it, guys gotta look out for themselves. But in looking out for yourselves, you cut out the legs of others. And understanding at this position, at the quarterback position, you cut out more than just a pair of legs. You cut out a few pairs of legs. And so for me, this is contradicted.
Using hindsight, the 24th selection of Aaron Rodgers in the 2005 NFL Draft was an absolute steal compared to others selected. But that wasn't the case when Rodgers was first selected. With future Hall of Fame quarterback Brett Favre already under center, the media lambasted Ted Thompson and his selection of Aaron Rodgers, when there was blatant needs at offensive line and defense. Rodgers' arrival to Green Bay was less than welcoming. Favre faithfuls cursed the rookie quarterback when arriving at camp, and his relationship with Favre was even worse. Rodgers and Favre got off on the wrong foot, and Favre was adamant about not helping Rodgers transition to the NFL. He didn't give up any first-team reps for Aaron Rodgers and was a well-known Iron Man at the quarterback position. Unless he was seriously injured, he wasn't going to give up any opportunities for Rodgers to take his job. Despite not getting reps, Rodgers continued to work behind the scenes, improving his form and playing well in practice. In addition to playing well, he was a good scout and a clipboard quarterback on the bench. But those are the things that the fans don't see. The improvement behind closed doors doesn't translate to the fans or the media. Before Rodgers even took a single regular season snap, he was being labeled as a bust, much akin to Joey Harrington. Ted Thompson's choice of Aaron Rodgers was labeled as a bad choice, and one that he was becoming wary of because of the constant criticism of the selection. That being said, labels are important to Rodgers' legacy in the NFL. The media loves to label players, whether bad or good, and Rodgers seems to take the brunt of it. Even with the Packers starting 1-7 and Favre struggling, the Packer faithful were firm that Favre stay in. If Favre can't get it done, then Rodgers definitely can't. Rodgers didn't perform well in the preseason, and that's what they saw, not Rodgers playing well at practice and learning from observing Favre. Eventually, during his sophomore season, Rodgers got some minutes, but that didn't go well, and the hate from fans continued. One foot out the door in the Packers' front office giving him a little push, Favre retired, and it was time for Rodgers to lead the offense. But after a couple months, Favre wanted to return, and the Packers' front office welcomed him back as a backup to Aaron Rodgers. Favre didn't even have a chance to take over the starting job and eventually shift off to New Jersey to play with the Jets. Fans went ballistic, blaming Rodgers and the front office for shipping away a proven winner for the unproven rookie. They took most of their anger out on Rodgers, who was routinely yelled at and heckled during practices and trips to Lambeau. The front office making a decision that ultimately landed in his lap, despite him nothing to do with it, and that former hatred from the fans started to come back. Despite hatred from the Packers faithful, Rodgers had a decent start in his rookie season. He led the Packers to a 10-6 record and played decently for a rookie quarterback. His second full-time season, he led the Packers to an 11-5 record and a playoff berth. The fans and media were coming around to Rodgers, and even a heartbreaking loss due to Rodgers' fumble didn't deter their kindling love for the California-born quarterback. In his third season, Rodgers won the Super Bowl after leading his team to a wild card round entry into the playoffs, knocking off the Chicago Bears in the process. Rodgers' win in the Super Bowl garnered a lot of love from the fans and media, and he had solidified himself as an emerging star in the league. But off-the-field issues began to emerge that would question Rodgers' character. Nothing too serious, but an issue nonetheless. An article emerged that told of Rodgers cutting off connection with his family. How could someone cut off their own family? What could they have done wrong to make him make a choice like this? The truth has never been fully revealed, but according to multiple sources from the family and Rodgers himself, he didn't like his family and their intense religious attitude. He had begun to swing away from Christianity. Later, Rodgers began to regress following a collarbone injury that left him sidelined for the rest of the season. The Packers began losing more games because of him being out, Although there was some light at the end of the tunnel, it seemed as if Rodgers was beginning to regress. The straining of the relationship between Mike and Aaron began when Aaron questioned play calling from Mike McCarthy during the NFC Championship game against the Seahawks. 3 times the Packers elected for a field goal in the red zone rather than attempting to go for a touchdown. After that loss, Rodgers began to be labeled as a playoff choker. By 2018, Mike McCarthy was on the hot seat, and his relationship with Aaron Rodgers was rocky to say the least. The two argued often, and what killed McCarthy in Green Bay was the Week 13 loss to the Arizona Cardinals. Following his firing in 2019, Rodgers didn't seem upset with the firing of Mike McCarthy and was cordial when released. Even when a hit piece was released about Rodgers and McCarthy, Rodgers defended his former coach and said that he was a good man. In 2019, Rodgers and LaFleur started off hot with a 13-3 record. They blew through the playoffs but came to a screeching halt at the NFC Championship when they lost in devastating fashion to the San Francisco 49ers. With Rodgers' regression and him possibly on his way out, Brian Gutekunst wanted to replicate Ted Thompson's approach that brought them 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks. With the first-round selection in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Packers selected Jordan Love, a QB from Utah State, who seemed to be Rodgers' successor. This selection was widely regarded as the worst selection in the first round for any team. The Packers needed a wide receiver to help Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams. Rodgers stated on the Pat McAfee show that he would have preferred a skill player because one hasn't been selected in 15 years. The Packers traded up to select him, and he most likely wasn't on anyone's draft board until the second round. This caused a rift between Rodgers and the Packers front office relationship, one that was already shaky to begin. Rodgers made it known that he wanted more insight into draft selections, trades, and overall the goings of the team. After all, he is a Hall of Fame quarterback, playing at an elite level. Or was he? Rodgers had regressed, and a lot of people thought that he was past his prime. Much like Favre being forced out of Green Bay, it felt like the same was going to happen to Rodgers. His future with the team was uncertain, and many didn't know if he was going to stay. Rodgers had made sure not to alienate Love like Favre did to him, and publicly put the blame onto the Packers head office and not Jordan Love. He never forgot them for the hatred he received when he was drafted and did his best to put it on the front office. With the rift already formed, no need to put the blame onto the rookie quarterback who's just trying his best, right? Wrong. Because of this, Rodgers became labeled in the media as the bad guy. He was arrogant and selfish. No matter what he did, he was scrutinized within the media. If he said something and someone interpreted it the wrong way, that became the narrative that the media pushed. Despite his so-called regression and the Packers looking to replace him, Rodgers pushed through the final 2 years of his contract with Green Bay. With an uncertain future, Rodgers led the Packers to the NFC Championship twice and won the MVP back-to-back. During these seasons, anything done by Rodgers or said by Rodgers within the game and outside of the game became headline news. Midway through the 2021 season, the Rodgers drama blew up. The Packers quarterback was criticized for not getting vaccinated against COVID-19 and blasted by Packers fans and the media alike. There was no safe space for Rodgers to go to, even on the Pat McAfee show. The issue came with Rodgers stating that he had immunized rather than saying he was vaccinated. Rodgers got more labels than ever before. He was called selfish, a scumbag, that he doesn't care about other players' health and safety. The news completely turned against him. Even though he played well in the 2021 season, enough to win another MVP award and finish his back-to-back campaign, it was not enough to win over the media. Even MVP award voters were coming out to criticize Rodgers, telling the news that he was a fool. The 2022 NFL season has been off to a rocky start for the Packers. They currently hold a 3-6 record and are third place in the NFC North. Nothing has been going well for them since Davante Adams left for Las Vegas. The future seems uncertain for Aaron Rodgers, and he seems to be angrier than he has before. Because of this, his name tends to show up more in the media. He's labeled as shifting the blame to his receivers or his coaches rather than taking in the blame himself. Through Week 10, the Packers receivers have some of the highest drop rates among all receivers in the NFL. Now, some of this blame should be put on Rodgers. Against the Lions, it was his fault that there was 3 interceptions in the red zone. Some of those throws were absolutely horrible. But the narrative for Rodgers is different than the narrative from players like Tom Brady. When Brady is angry, he is seen as competitive. We've seen him this season constantly yelling at his offensive line or angry about play calls, but he is considered to be competitive and wanting a win, while Rodgers is bitter and angry towards his teammates and friends. It seems as if the entire media surrounded by the NFL dislikes Rodgers for his actions, but his actions have been minimal. Nothing different compared to guys like Brady or Peyton. Both Brady and Rodgers are guys who want to win, and if your team is playing bad, you're the leader and you need to bring them into action. If Rodgers can turn the ship around and lead the Packers to a playoff berth, he won't be praised in the media. LaFleur will be. If they continue to struggle, the blame will fall onto his shoulders.